Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere, and we're on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. Tags, how's it going, man?
Oh, dude, it's going. I am actually in the background currently right now while I'm writing. I have a replay of the Rams and Chiefs game on, and man, that game was just so much fun to watch last night. And I did want to take a second to mention to people, there's a lot of people who asked me, what happened with Todd Gurley? And I put it on Twitter, and I said basically, I believe that Todd Gurley got hurt very early on in that game. I think it was the second touch he got of the game where he was tackled out of bounds awkwardly. The defender came down on his ankle/calf area. Like, it just didn't look great. And he walked back to the huddle shaking his head, and he said something to Jared Goff. And I don't know if it was like, hey, we're going to have to run some plays without me because I'm not right. I think that's what happened. And we saw a lot more Malcolm Brown than we typically would. So I feel like Todd Gurley just wasn't right for that game, but it didn't matter because the Rams offense is just, man, they're so good.
Well, hopefully he's good to go the rest of the season, and we'll find out. If he's not, I think Malcolm Brown is worth picking up regardless of whether or not Todd Gurley's hurt because he's a great backup. Anyway, Tags, we have got a guest today. It's Doug Orth, fantasy analyst and NFL draft analyst for FFtoday.com and USA Today. He's on Twitter at his name, Doug Orth. That's O-R-T-H. Doug, thanks for taking the time to join our show.
Hey guys, still recovering from last night. What can I say?
I'm recovering in the wrong kind of way because I was up 65 points with Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt going against me, and I got destroyed. I thought I was going to win that game, man.
Not so much.
Yeah, I got a similar story. Thankfully, I came out on top. I was praying for a 60-point lead going into last night. I was going against Tyreek Hill and Todd Gurley.
Oh, it worked out for you then.
Oh, yeah, just by a hair. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was that close because, Gurley didn't have his usual game, but Hill was a monster.
Yeah, he was.
Chris Conley was a monster too. What do you think about that, Tags?
You know what's crazy is I only played one lineup in DraftKings last night during the showdown slate, and I had Chris Conley in that lineup. But I unfortunately, and I won money in the lineup too because I had Conley, I had Gerald Everett who caught 2 touchdowns, but I had Todd Gurley in my captain spot, which really dragged down that lineup. I still hit cash in the tournament.
Wow, you could have done awesome.
Yeah, I could have done like amazing had I not had him in there, but it was a good night, man. I enjoyed that game thoroughly.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so here's the plan for today's show. We're obviously going to be doing start sit. We're doing it a little bit earlier than usual because it's just a short week, so we want to get you as much information as possible. Tags and I are also going to be doing the DFS episode tomorrow. That'll drop on Wednesday night, so we'll be talking about the Thanksgiving contest as well as the Sunday main slate. Primarily the Sunday main slate, but we'll give some of our favorite plays for Thanksgiving as well. Before we get into that, though, guys, I have something planned. I didn't tell either of you about it. I want you guys to tell me your dream team Thanksgiving first plate. So obviously you're going back for second or thirds. Mine's almost all dessert on second and thirds. But on your first plate, Tags, will let you go first. What is your dream team?
So I'm a very simple man, Bobby. I'm Italian, and my mom, it's a homemade meat sauce, and it's like mastacholi. If I have mastacholi and bread on my plate, I'm set. Like, that's all I need, seriously.
So, you're not doing the crappy turkey thing?
So turkey, it depends. So my father-in-law does an awesome thing. So he deep fries them, and that's fantastic. So, I mean, if you can get a deep fried turkey, it's a lot better than a plain, dry white turkey. But yeah, I'm an Italian guy, and I like pasta during the holidays. I know it's not tradition.
I didn't even know that was a thing, man. I mean, I dig it. I just think the pasta should be pizza. Is that a pasta, Doug?
No.
Pizza is not a pasta.
It should be, just so it can qualify for Thanksgiving. We gotta find a way to eat some pizza.
You could eat whatever you want, man.
Doug, are you going with the turkey and stuff?
I will disagree with pizza on Thanksgiving. No, I'm anti-turkey.
Good man, I love it.
Gotta have sweet potatoes.
Oh, yuck, never mind.
Yeah, either one. Gotta have some starches, so sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, fine.
Yeah.
Corn seems like a Thanksgiving vegetable.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, as long as you're not going with nasty stuff, there's a lot of it. There's a reason we don't eat a lot of this food the rest of the year. It's only good on, it's not even good on Thanksgiving. We just do it on Thanksgiving because everyone's like, well, I guess we should be nice to this food and finally eat it. But I'm cool with mashed potatoes, and then just macaroni and cheese, save a bunch of room for dessert.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, pecan pie would be my finisher. I saw something on that yesterday. About mac and cheese being a favorite for Thanksgiving. I don't think I've ever had mac and cheese on Thanksgiving.
Where are you from, Doug?
I'm originally from Nebraska.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think it's a Midwest thing. I grew up in Nebraska a little. I'm from a military family, so small world, man.
Yeah, I saw it was in more of a southern thing where mac and cheese is supposed to be the Thanksgiving staple.
I didn't know that. Well, I guess they're smart people down there.
They do like their food, yes.
I mean, we're not talking like green bean casserole or anything nasty like they eat I don't know where they eat that, but it's not my house.
Oh, God, that's disgusting. Seriously, now I'm ready to throw up. Can we stop eat our food now?
All right, guys, let's move along. We're going to go position by position here. First, though, I want to tell you about a contest we have going on. We're giving away a signed Dalvin Cook helmet to one lucky listener. All you have to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're producing a lot of content every week. Tags and I go on live stream 3 times a week. That's youtube.com/fantasypros. And the contest, if you want to enter, is fantasypros.com/contest. Really simple. Get your entry in. Takes about 30 seconds. All right, guys, we're going to start at the running back position today. Tags, right at the start, why don't you just give us the one name that is going to surprise us that you think is worth a start this week? Do you have one?
Oh, man, it's so early in the process. It's just so much easier for me to talk about individual players and games because, like, what my typical process works out is, like, I start writing the primer Sunday night and, like, I'm working on it basically through Wednesday, and then Thursday morning. But rankings typically take place on Wednesday. So today, I wish that I could say I had my rankings all put together. I could talk about individual matchups, but I mean, it's really tough. Like, there is one player that I've written up already that I can tell you is a must play that a lot of people usually ask about, and that's Matt Breida. Matt Breida is like a locked in play. Like, you put him in your lineup, you don't think twice about it. He's like a stud RB2 this week that I would not even consider benching. So I don't think we need to talk about him very much, but just understand that he's like a fantastic play.
Doug, I've got him as a high RB2 at running back 14 overall. That's actually where the expert consensus is this week as well. Where do you have Breida ranked?
I'm with Tags. My preparation doesn't usually start until article time, which is unfortunately Wednesday afternoon. But no, that sounds about right. That sounds about right with me and Breida too.
Yeah, Tampa Bay has, they've been a little better against the run than they have been against the pass, but that's really not saying much. This is a great matchup, and, when Breida's been healthy, he's been the lead dog there in San Francisco. It's a good running offense. The game scripts haven't been ideal, but this one might end up being alright against Tampa, so we'll see.
That game has an over-under of 55 points.
Yeah. And if you think Nick Mullins is throwing for 3 touchdowns again, I'm sorry, I don't think so.
It's possible. I'm telling you, Mullins is not a bad streamer, honestly. Like, I don't mind him this week, but the Bucs have allowed 17 total touchdowns to running backs, which is the most in the NFL. I mean, if you're doing the math at home, that's 1.7 touchdowns to running backs per game. And Alfred Morris has been losing some of the timeshare there. And if you go by the over-under here and the fact that they're a slight underdog in this game, I think it suits Breida's skill set a little better. He's used a lot more in the passing game. Alfred Morris could always fall into a touchdown, but I think Matt Breida's locked into, I would say, 15 to 20 touches in this game, and he probably should find the end zone. So again, high-end RB2, don't even think twice, put him in your lineup.
So Breida's a lock. All 3 of us agree. A couple other guys that I have ranked up there, but I'm curious what you all think. Marlon Mack coming off kind of a rough game. He gets Miami this week. And Dalvin Cook coming off definitely a rough game. He's also in a timeshare right now, going up against Green Bay, who actually has a pretty decent run defense. Doug, we'll let you go first. Do you have these 2 locked in as top 20 plays this week?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. Mac, just because of, well, the matchup is obviously delicious. Can I say that?
It's a good way to say it.
Yeah, matchup is delicious. I think he would be, even if you told me he was going to cap out at 15 carries, I would probably tell you he's a top 20 matchup. Last week was probably about what you would expect from him, correct?
Yeah, that was a tough matchup for him in that game. I didn't expect much from the week before either against Jacksonville. It was a terrible matchup then. Like, he's had 2 brutal matchups. So going against Miami, I am not worried about Marlon Mack. He's
and the 2 weeks he dominated was against Buffalo and Oakland. So it's kind of hard to tell right now, but I think
Miami's in like that Oakland conversation. Miami's terrible against the run. They've allowed almost 5 yards per carry on the ground this year, 9 rushing touchdowns. Like, there's very little to worry about with Marlon Mack this week, in my opinion. I think he's a locked in play.
It's a shame he hasn't been used in the passing game quite as much. But why would they when they've got Nyheim Hines, who I think is one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL. Mm-hmm. This Indianapolis offense is rolling, by the way. So I've got Mack number 12. I've got Cook 15.
That was one of my bigger letdowns on draft day a couple years ago. Was this past spring when they drafted Nyheim Hines, because I still at that point had Marlon Mack on my dynasty team, and I traded him shortly thereafter. That was a letdown to see them get Nyheim Hines. You asked me about Dalvin Cook too. One of the reasons Dalvin Cook didn't end up on any of my fantasy teams this year was because I didn't trust that run blocking, and it's awful. Yeah. But you asked me about Cook this week. Yeah, according to FF Today's database, they're actually a middling matchup, but I don't mind waiting for a big play with Cook against Green Bay, whereas against Chicago, I certainly didn't see it happening. So
now, Tags, I know you don't like Cook quite as much as me. I've got him ranked right by ECR. I've got him at number 15. Do you have him in your top 20, or would you rather play someone like Gus Edwards?
Yeah, no, I'll have him inside my top 20 this week for sure. I'm not a huge Dalvin Cook guy. I think he's going to be involved in a timeshare for kind of the remainder of the season. But the Green Bay Packers defense they've been mediocre. They have suffered a lot of injuries in the secondary. Some of the linebackers are a little bit dinged up. They're going to have 10 days to rest for this game, obviously. So that does help while the Vikings, they're coming off a Sunday night game. But the Packers defense as a whole, the reason that they haven't allowed big numbers to teams is because teams aren't utilizing their running backs in the passing game against them. I mean, there's only been 56 targets to running backs against them, which is the third lowest in the NFL. So Dalvin Cook, that's the area where he's got like a big advantage over Latavius Murray. I see this game as being very competitive. I don't think that the Packers blow them out, so I don't think that they need to necessarily go through the air. Obviously, it's a softer defense than the Bears. The Packers do allow 4.74 yards per carry, so this front seven isn't something to worry about. The matchup isn't anything to worry about, where game script can be concerned, where it's like you're worried about touches. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be a fine RB2. I still do worry about him losing some goal line touches to Latavius Murray, who's been awesome in that role.
All right, let's move on over to Gus Edwards, because he was a popular pickup, but I mean, we can't really trust that he's going to be the starter going forward. Do you agree, Doug, or do you just plug him in and expect it to happen after his big performance?
No, totally agree. I as much as I wanted Baltimore to be out the Alex Collins show all year, I know that's not going to happen. I still think he's going to start, though. I think I saw something where John Harbaugh talked about being happy with basically praising the entire backfield. So that's wonderful.
But of course, against Cincinnati, I mean, what did we expect?
The thing is, we talk in fantasy often about the perfect storm and everything. And what you had last week was the worst defense with a mobile quarterback. We all know what mobile quarterbacks do for running games. And then you bring in the fourth string running back, and of course he's going to look good. That's not to say that I don't think Gus Edwards is a decent prospect, but to me, it's in Baltimore's ideal scenario. I think Collins probably now has about 12 touches. Whoever they decide between Montgomery and Allen, probably 6 to 8 touches, and then Gus Edwards, probably 6 to 8 touches. I think it's probably what they want in their ideal scenario. And they might get it this week against Oakland.
Yeah, Tags, where do you have Gus Edwards? I've got him at 23, just a little bit behind ECR. Would you rather play him, Jordan Howard, or Chris Carson against Carolina?
I'm probably going to lean with Gus Edwards in this one. And the reason is because, we talked about it on the waiver wire show where Gus Edwards, the Ravens had 2 weeks to prepare for last week's game. And they clearly saw something in Gus Edwards that they wanted to get on the field. He had played very, very minimal snaps, 17 total snaps in the 3 prior games. But again, this might have to do with Lamar Jackson under center. He might just be better in that option offense, and he's a very downhill runner. So it's like, they're going to have him get downhill. Defense has to collapse. Otherwise, and if Lamar Jackson holds on to it, then he's going to have wide open lanes on the outside. I do not think that Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball 27 times per game. Like, I went back and looked at this. Like, it's ridiculous what in terms of what he totaled. By comparison, there's been no other quarterback who's totaled more than 13 carries in a game this year. There was no quarterback who totaled more than 14 carries in a game last year. Go back to 2016, that number was 12 carries. So we're going to see more against running backs. The Raiders do allow the most rushing yards per game, 131, including 5 straight teams who have ran for 112 plus yards against them. So even if this is somewhat of a timeshare and the Raiders have faced 25 or more running back carries in 7 of the last 9 games, I still think that there's room for both running backs to produce, but knowing that he played 49 snaps compared to Collins' 17 last week in a very close divisional game that was like a must-win, I'm trusting Gus Edwards. Meanwhile, Alex Collins is back, and he's like an RB4 territory for me. I don't think Edwards did anything to lose grip on that job that he kind of like seemingly took at the end of the first quarter. It was nuts.
RB4 territory, man, huh?
Yeah, that's where I have Collins. I have Edwards. I think Edwards is a solid RB2 play this week.
Okay. For what it's worth, ECR, that's the expert consensus rankings, has Alex Collins at 31, so well inside the RB3 conversation. I tend to agree with Tags, though. I've got him down at 34. I thought that was a little bit low. I would not start Alex Collins this week unless you're in like a 16-team league or anything. Guys, let's get 4 more names here. Actually, we'll go 3. Lamar Miller faced Tennessee. Dion Lewis at Houston, and Tariq Cohen at Detroit. Doug, we'll let you go first on this one. Which of this trio would you take?
I think you got them ranked exactly the way I would rank them. Lamar Miller, just because of volume. Obviously, the matchup is difficult, and
these three are also frustrating. Like Miller, you know what you're going to get week to week, not much upside. Cohen has a ton of upside, but he's kind of boom or bust. And then Dion Lewis, he was awesome, and then he had a bad week against Indianapolis, which was a great matchup. So I don't know what to do here.
If the matchup was anything besides Houston, I mean, there's probably about 5 teams right now that I would hesitate starting a fringe running back against, and Houston would be one of them. Otherwise, Dion Lewis would probably be all things being equal, I would probably usually put Dion Lewis about 5 spots ahead of Lamar Miller. Matchup is difficult for both of those guys. You know what? I would probably go err toward Lewis a little bit more than Miller. So I'll go Lewis, Miller, and Cohen.
So Tags, I've got Cohen, Miller, Lewis. What direction are you going here?
I think we all have it differently. I think I would go Cohen, Lewis, then Miller. I want no part of Miller. Like, if you look at Tennessee, what they've done this year against the run, it's kind of ridiculous.
Especially lately. They started off the season kind of rough against the run. I was wondering what happened, but ooh, man, they've been monsters against the run.
Yeah, not a single running back has topped 85 yards against them. They allowed 2 touchdowns to Alex Collins in one game, but outside of that, they allowed just 1 rushing touchdown to James Devlin. That's it. That's it. And Lamar Miller he's playing behind a terrible offensive line. I just think that the middle of that line is going to get blown up against Tennessee. It's going to be a lower scoring game. Dion Lewis benefits from the fact that Houston doesn't allow much on the ground. They're another tough run defense, as Doug was talking about, but they do allow a little bit through the air. Like, if you look at it, there's been, I think, 6 or 7 different running backs who have totaled at least 30 receiving yards against them. They've allowed 5 receiving touchdowns to running backs. So this matchup does definitely favor Dion Lewis over Derrick Henry. Houston, I need to mention that Adrian Peterson scored 2 touchdowns against them last week, but that was such a weird scenario. Like, it was the exact same play.
He didn't look good, by the way. I would trade Adrian Peterson. He looks like he's toast right now.
He's slowing down, but like the 2 touchdowns were like he was able to walk in. Like, he literally just ran up the middle, stuck his toe in the ground.
Well, yeah, he did some very decisive, slow jump cuts to the left, and there was nobody there.
Yeah. That's basically where I'm at with that. But Tariq Cohen, the reason I like him this week is because we saw Jordan Howard against this defense 2 weeks ago. Jordan Howard totaled 21 yards on 11 carries against them. With Damon Harrison up the middle of the field, they're a better run defense than they've been. Even last week, McCaffrey, 53 yards on 13 carries. So they need to get Tariq Cohen involved in the flats. They need to use the short passing game to move the ball.
I've got him over Howard this week. Do you have him too?
I do. I would play him over Howard this week. Yes, I would.
And ECR has them at 26 for Cohen, 21 for Howard. So I thought I might be crazy. But
well, knowing that Trubisky is dealing with a shoulder injury and might not even play, that's only going to help. I mean, it's going to help the run game as a whole. But at the same time, if Detroit's stout up the middle, they need to use Cohen in the screen game a lot more than they have. So I actually like Cohen more than all of them.
All right, let's keep moving here. We've got 3 more names, and then we'll go to some really deep plays at running back. So this threesome here is Peyton Barber, face San Francisco, coming off his only big game of the year. LaShawn McCoy, who was just garbage until all of a sudden he had that huge game, but he gets the Bills coming off the bye. And then Josh Adams against the Giants. Which of these 3 are you going with here, Doug?
Interesting. I'm going to go in the reverse order. Adams, McCoy, and Barber.
I've got Adams first, too, for what it's worth. In fact, I've got him over Lamar Miller and Dion Lewis this week.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, even if he only gets 12 carries, this Giants run defense without Damon Harrison has just been trash.
Yeah, my reason for Adams, McCoy, Barber, I want absolutely nothing to do with the Tampa Bay running game, almost regardless of who they're playing.
That's fair.
And San Francisco, I do like their defensive line. I think their overall defense gets kind of a bad name in fantasy. I almost think their defense gets dragged down because of all the injuries on offense, if that makes any sense.
They might be the most improved run defense this year because they were the worst last year. We picked on them every week, and now they're, I don't know, probably top 16.
Yeah, Fred Warner's been awesome.
Certainly like Buckner there up front there and everything. Adams, a little bit more decisive, a little bit more quickness than I remember him having at Notre Dame.
I like that the Eagles have committed to, I mean, they've entrenched him as their starting running back now. And it was in a blowout last week, so we didn't get to see just how much they're going to use him. I wouldn't be shocked if he touches the ball 15 times like Jay Ajayi did prior to him going down with an injury. I think Adams is Ajayi now.
Yeah, I do too. If you could tell me that McCoy was going to be used like I think New England was one of the few games I remember seeing of his that he was used like I expected. Now, certainly he didn't perform his yards per carry weren't all that great. But I think, didn't he have about 8 or 9 catches in that game? If you would tell me that they would swing him out of the backfield against Jacksonville, I just want the volume with him. I kind of knew going into this.
And you never know.
And you never know. So that's why he falls behind Adams in my mind.
Tags, I think McCoy's a very good GPP play this week because the Jags, after blowing that game to the Steelers, and man, did they blow it. Like, they could just quit on the season, or they could be so mad that they come out and just dominate like Jalen Ramsey did in the first half against Antonio Brown. I don't know if I've ever seen a cornerback play a better half of football than Jalen Ramsey. Then the second half, it was bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, the defense just got worn out. They were on the field a lot in the second half, and they just couldn't do anything.
Well, yeah, Blake Bortles went 3 and out every time, man.
You give Pittsburgh that many opportunities, you're just going to lose it. So, as for the Jags, no, don't touch LaShawn McCoy. I don't like him this week. Josh Adams is my play here, and it's not even close. Like, I have Josh Adams. I think he's like a solid RB2 this week. And I, Bobby, you know that I'm literally against Eagles running backs almost every week, but there's a reason I'm buying him here. I think that
Peyton Barber dominated. He ate against the Giants last week.
The game means so much to the Eagles. Doug Peterson understands that they need to get their run game going. Against the Saints, it was never going to happen because that game just flipped upside down. And the Saints have been really one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL. But Josh Adams, the reason I love him here, there were 18 combined carries and targets among running backs in that game last week. He totaled 13 of them. He got 6 targets in the passing game, which tells me that he's kind of game script proofed in terms of what they're doing here. Now, they got so far behind that the running backs just didn't get many touches. But against the Giants, as you mentioned, Bobby, since losing Damon Harrison, they have allowed 406 yards on 77 carries and 5 touchdowns to running backs over the last 3 weeks. I love Josh Adams, and honestly, if you have him on your roster and you're not going to play him in this game, drop him.
Yep, good call.
2 things, guys, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Tags brings up a great point. That was probably the thing I was most surprised with was Adams' usage in the passing game. And then secondly, I'm not a Jags fan by any stretch of the imagination, but as opposed to watching Red Zone all day, I try to focus in on singular games. Just it helps me as an analyst, I think. But anyway, I caught most of the game last week, and then I caught most of the game against New England, I believe, in week 2. I could not, if you told me that those games were run by the same offense coordinator, there's no way I would have believed you. It was all aggressiveness, and for whatever reason, it was like they were playing. I know week 2 is a long time ago, but it was all aggressiveness. 4th down, 4th and 5, we're going for it. We're play actioning, so on and so forth. This game, you're watching it and you're thinking, they're going to blow this. They're going to blow this.
Yeah. Guys, I had a dream on Sunday night. You know, I'm looking at my FanDuel lineup all day or whatever, and when you're doing that, you have dreams about that kind of stuff. I had a dream that Frank Gore went for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns, and I was like, how did I miss this? Like, how did he have such a good week? Of course, he was on the bye last week, so I have no idea why I was dreaming about him, but is Frank Gore, did I just dream the future? Is he going to dominate the Colts? He gets better every week, it seems like.
Frank Gore, I'm not playing him.
This is amazing, man. How is he doing this?
Against his former team, it's the whole revenge narrative. I know people are going to want to go with that, but
come on, Tags, feel it, man.
So, Tags, would you rather go Frank Gore against the Colts, Duke Johnson at Cincinnati, Elijah McGuire face the Patriots, or Theo Riddick face the Bears?
Man, this is a great choice. Okay, are we talking about a standard or a PPR format?
Let's go half PPR. I'm going McGuire for the upside here.
Yeah, McGuire's not a bad play. The game script is going to favor him heavily. I think Theo Riddick's going to be used a lot though against the Bears too.
I think Duke's going to be used more against the Bengals though. You don't think so?
I don't think so. Duke Johnson's in the same exact role. He only played, I think it was 25 snaps in their game against Atlanta. That was pretty close throughout.
The Browns are such jerks, man, to fantasy owners.
Nick Chubb is playing fantastic, and Nick Chubb's going to steal it. Against those linebackers in Cincinnati, he's going to eat. Chubb is an RB1 this week, a legit RB1, whereas Duke Johnson is not to say that he can't put up numbers because Cincinnati just allows everything to anybody they want. I don't know, man. That's a really tough one. Duke Johnson and Theo Riddick belong in the same territory. Elijah McGuire's got more upside because he has more touch potential than those guys, and Frank Gore is just the boring one who's not going to lose you a week, but he's also not going to win it.
I went McGuire, Riddick, Gore, and Johnson, and I say that with very low conviction.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, this is nitpicking when we get down to these guys, but some people have to make a decision. Who am I going to pick up out of these 4 because I really need someone this week? Yeah. And if you're that desperate, I am sorry, I don't think your team's going to win the championship. All All right, guys.
How could you? How could you?
All right, guys, we're going to move on over to wide receivers here in just a second. First, though, I want to remind you all, FanDuel's got $1 million contest going on for Thanksgiving. They have all these kinds of contests for all occasions. They're so creative over there. They come up with so much, but they're giving away $1 million in one contest on Thanksgiving. There's 3 games to choose from, just $9 to enter, and the top prize gets $200,000. We're going to be talking about this slate on our DFS podcast tomorrow, along with the Sunday main slate. Check out FanDuel, all their contests going on, whether you want to play for $9, 25 cents, $100, whatever you want to do. All kinds of contests for all kinds of people. Check it out, and their app is awesome too. All right, guys, let's move on over to wide receiver. Tags, you starting Michael Thomas this week against Atlanta?
No, what I found funny about this, though, is because it's the first time I'm looking at like the consensus rankings right now. Why is Tre'Quan Smith at number 20?
I was just going to ask you that because I was like, okay, so he's sitting here at 20. I don't even know if he's a lock.
So guys, like, I don't know if he's a lock either. Like, then the thing is like, I understand, and I had him as a good tournament play last week. I actually did like him in tournaments. I have no idea why he's at number 20.
You didn't tell me that.
I had him down in the primer. It was written down saying that he's been playing.
You got to tell me, man. That's why we do this podcast, so you can give me great advice.
So he actually played more snaps than Michael Thomas in the game against the Bengals. He just didn't get targeted in that game. So it's like he's on the field, and if there's a game that we know that the Eagles are hurting in their secondary, if you want to go full contrarian away from Michael Thomas, you could play Tre'Quan Smith. And I guess apparently a lot of people in DFS did do that. Like he was higher owned than he should have been, but why all of a sudden is he like a number 20 receiver? Like, come on.
He's not. I don't know who has set their rankings, but they must have set him like in the morning before they woke up.
Maybe they did it right after the game against the Eagles. That had to be it.
Like, I would recommend starting him. I've got him in my top 36, but like 33, not 20. Doug, where do you have Tre'Quan Smith?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. To me, Tre'Quan Smith is the evolution of the Robert Meacham.
Yeah, Devery Henderson
role.
Great call.
When you're looking for receiver matchups, what defense are you targeting right now? Almost without fail, it's the Eagles, and even better if it's deep threats. That last week matched up perfectly for Tre'Quan Smith.
Atlanta's kind of there though too.
Yeah, Atlanta's not great, but
so like if it was a normal defense, like say Carolina, like right in the middle of the pack, I don't think that I would probably play Tre'Quan Smith. He'd be a decent flex option, but I don't think he's suddenly become like this must-play type of guy like DJ Moore.
Yeah, I see like Marquez Valdez-Scantling at 30. I think I'm with you, Bobby, on wide receiver 3 territory. I think that's about right.
Yeah, he's a guy you play, and you play him for upside, and you're hoping that he gets some of those targets, but he's far from a sure thing. And when you get up towards 20, you better be talking about a guy that I kind of know is going to produce most of it. Like,
I mean, he's ranked ahead of Allen Robinson going up against Detroit. No, I don't think so, guys. I'm putting Allen Robinson in my top 15, so.
He's ranked ahead of Jarvis Landry against Cincinnati. I mean, I understand Landry's been inefficient, but I don't know. I don't know.
After you get past those top 22, 23 receivers, it's kind of a mess. Like, I see a couple guys here that I'm really surprised about. Calvin Ridley, he hasn't been doing anything except for those 2 weeks. Tyler Lockett, he's kind of fading as well. Cortland Sutton hasn't really turned it on as much as I would expect. I still love Cortland Sutton. I've got him in my top 25 this week, but he's not a sure thing. Deshaun Jackson, he's fading as well. I love Mohamed Sanu this week, but we're talking about him as a top 30 receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling against the Vikings. Guys, it is getting ugly here.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad matchups of wide receivers in this territory. Honestly, I don't like very much. Like Corey Davis, you want to say, oh, that would be nice, but Houston's been really good this year against the pass. Like their cornerbacks, despite the injuries they've suffered there, they've been a lot better.
Yeah, everyone's going to bench Corey Davis after last week, and then he's going to go off again.
You might have Gabbert throwing to him, which is never ideal.
Is that really that much worse than Mariota?
That's probably true.
I shouldn't have said that. Now the Titans fans are going to come fight me again.
Dude, you're going to have Tennessee Titans truthers coming after you. But Valdez-Scantling against Minnesota, it's not a great matchup. Sterling Shepard, it's a good matchup against Philly. Sidney Jones got hurt again, so they're going to be down. They're going to be down basically to 3 backup cornerbacks they're starting. So, I mean, I probably would rather start Sterling Shepard than Tre'Quan Smith this week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Me too, definitely. I've got Shepard in my 28. I've got Tre'Quan 34. So, hey, I want to say something about the Titans thing. Don't forget, when I'm blasting Marcus Mariota like everybody else who's not a Titans fan, remember, I called the Titans winning this AFC South in the preseason, so I'm not like some Titans hater, people.
Bobby is a Titans hater. Yes, he is. give him all the hate.
49ers fans are really mad at me now because I posted back-to-back polls about Frank Gore and Joe Montana, and it didn't. I don't know. I should have done that probably.
Bobby, Bobby, anybody that spends any time in Nebraska knows that you're a Titans hater, so don't move on.
All right, guys, let's see. Let's get to a couple other names here. I'm going to give you 3 of them, Doug. 3 names that I actually like quite a bit this week. Larry Fitzgerald, Anthony Miller, DJ Moore. Let's say you're in a good place, but you've got to choose one of those 3. I'll say them again. Fitzgerald against the Chargers, Anthony Miller against Detroit, and DJ Moore against Seattle. Who are you taking?
To me, it's a tight call between Fitzgerald and Miller.
I have all 3 of them in the top 30, but they're back to back to back, super close.
Yeah, I'll slightly lean toward Miller. I don't like challenging that Chargers secondary either.
Yeah.
So for me, Fitzgerald is a kind of like where he is on the ranks. I would say he's a back end wide receiver 3. Miller, at least he got some upside, and that Lions secondary is pretty well bagged up. I think as you guys have already kind of documented. And then Detroit's a middling matchup. And as I'm looking at the FF Today database here, 15 touchdowns to receivers. That ranks tied for, I guess it'd be tied for 4th in the league.
And Miller's a red zone machine, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Miller, it was always going to be a question of when, not if. I hadn't seen anything yet about Trubisky's shoulder. Actually, I did see a little bit of something. I haven't been able to follow up on it.
Chase Daniel, baby. Chase Daniel, baby. I know you're excited, Tags.
You know what? If there's one matchup where I'm okay with it, coming off the win against the Vikings, I'm okay with that. But so I want to address your question here, though. Desmond King has been one of the best slot cornerbacks in football this year. He's going to match up with Fitzgerald. Josh Rosen has completed less than 58% of his passes in 3 straight weeks. Desmond King's he actually has 3 interceptions on the year compared to 1 touchdown allowed in his coverage.
He's number 1 on Pro Football Focus, isn't he? Not just for slot corners, for all corners.
I don't know what his actual grade is there, but I do know that he's been playing fantastic. He's been playing even better than Casey Hayward in terms of like what he's done in coverage. He's only allowed, I think it's like 7.8 yards per reception. And Josh Rosen, let's be real about this. I know Fitzgerald caught 2 touchdowns, but Rosen completed 9 passes last week against the Raiders, guys. Like, are we really going to trust his wide receivers like on a wide receiver 3 level? I'm not quite there. I do think that the Chargers.
Yeah, I've got Fitz number 3 out of these guys because of that and because of the matchup against King.
The Chargers are going to run away with this game. They're 12-point favorites. Melvin Gordon's going to dominate that game. Anthony Miller's a good play. And the reason I say he is because we watched him, take care of this Detroit defense last week. They've been kind of rotating cornerbacks at slot corner all year long. They're going to have Darius Slay back for this matchup, which definitely downgrades Allen Robinson. Miller operates over the middle of the field, so if Trubisky's arm is a little less than 100%, it favors Miller. It favors Cohen, who have shorter targets. If Chase Daniel's there, he's going to play it, I would imagine he's going to play it safer, and Miller has the best matchup on the field. So as for DJ Moore, this offense is very hit or miss for me. He's in terms of where he lines up on the field, he's going to see the most of Shaquille Griffin, who's supposed to be their best corner. It's not to say that Moore can't beat him, but the matchup last week against Detroit was too good to pass up. DJ Moore is more of like a high-end wide receiver 4 for me this week that I don't think you need to play him. Like I actually, so the quarterback rating I see is 76.6 against King, that he's allowed 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions.
Oh.
But either way, like he has allowed a high catch rate because his catch rate is like 83%, but he's kept the play in front of him. Like in terms of like when you allow 8.7 yards per reception, that's super low.
Yeah. All right, guys. Next 3 here. This trio is really interesting because we got 2 just throw your hands up. I don't know what to do. Golden Tate and Devin Funchess. They're going up against the Giants for Tate. Devin Funchess goes up against Seattle, and then Kiki QT, who seems to be a pretty safe option. But I'm not really sure if this is going to continue. So, Tags, I'll let you go first on this trio here.
Yeah, it's really ugly, man. Like, I don't like this trio right here because Devin Funchess probably has the best matchup of any Panthers wide receiver, but he's been terrible as of late. He's falling down the pecking order. That should be a lower scoring game, a very slow paced game, I think, between those teams. Golden Tate, apparently the Eagles are having issues incorporating him into the offense, and it shows. Obviously, scoring 7 points last week in a matchup against the Saints is like pitiful. So I don't know what's going on with that team. I don't know if there's a disconnect between the ownership and the coaches because, I mean, if they can't figure out how to incorporate him, like what did you traded a draft pick away for the guy for a rent-a-player. So QT is like that safety valve over the middle of the field. But Deshaun Watson is only, Bobby, I think you'd have to go back to week 5 to find the last time he threw the ball more than 25 times. So this is like an ugly territory where you're just looking for, I think if you're looking at the matchups, I think Golden Tate has the best matchup against the Giants, but it's not great, man. Like these guys are all just very hit or miss wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 types that I'm not really excited about playing.
I like QT the best out of all of them because, Tate, let's wait and see with him. Like, obviously you got to start him, but QT's just been getting the job done. I think it's a good matchup against Tennessee, whose secondary has been getting worse as the season goes on. And then Devin Funchess. Can we have some real talk? Like, I'm not trying to be a hyperbolic jerk here, but like, honestly, is there much of a difference in fantasy value between Devin Funchess, whose ECR is number 36, and Curtis Samuel, whose ECR is 61? I mean, they're both touchdown or bust guys. Funchess gets more targets, but Samuel does a lot more with the targets that he gets. I think they're pretty similar fantasy assets, and their difference in ranking is 30 points, guys.
Yep, I think you're spot on there, Bobby. I agree with pretty much everything you said. QT, I think the Texans are obviously trying to game plan him touches, and that's always a key thing. I've got QT considerably ahead of, not considerably, but a few spots ahead of the
Tags, I know you really want a crazy button for when I say something you just entirely disagree with. Now, do you think that was crazy about Funchess and Samuel, or are you that low on Funchess at this point?
Oh no, I lowered Funchess outside my top 40 receivers a little while back, so I've been lower on him, but he's still seeing more consistent targets than Samuel. He's had some good matchups. Like, Samuel is like a very limited player in terms of how he gets on the field, because they still have Jarius Wright playing a lot of snaps, so they need like he's like the fourth wide receiver. And has he been popping off the page when he gets the ball?
And the second running back. There's a reason they cut CJ Anderson.
Yeah, Luke Kuechly basically said, like, why don't we throw the ball to him every single play, because he's just lightning. And I mean, I have no issue with that. Like, I don't know why people are still viewing Funchess as like a top 36 play. I don't get that. I think Michael Crabtree is a worse option, but that's not saying much.
I need to stop raving about Curtis Samuel before a producer kills me, because there's some guys that I just talk about too much. Samuel's been that guy lately. So let's keep moving here. Okay, let's get three more. John Brown has been downright awful, but he gets Oakland this week. Taylor Gabriel's kind of disappeared. And then Chris Godwin, who's technically the fourth wide receiver for Tampa. It's a decent matchup, and he's had a good season so far. So if you have to choose between these three, Doug, going with Godwin, John Brown, or Taylor Gabriel?
Okay, so can you guys explain to me how you go from 0 catches and 3 targets 2 weeks ago to, what was it, 7 and 9 last week? I'm talking about Gabriel, obviously. I'm going Godwin for the upside. We know that he's highly touchdown dependent, but so I'm going Godwin, Gabriel, and Brown here. I love Godwin as a prospect. It's just, I think most of us were really hoping that Deshaun Jackson was going to get traded at the deadline.
Absolutely. Love Chris Godwin on this show. You're in the right spot.
Things, but I guess we'll just have to bide our time till next year. I think Jackson's gone at the end of the year. But anyway, Godwin for the upside.
Tags, I've got one of these players quite a bit higher than the rest. Can you guess who that is?
I'm guessing yours is Godwin. I'm going Gabriel.
I'm going John Brown.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm going John Brown. Man, he's really good.
Oh, he's a great player, but
he hasn't done much lately, but
Lamar Jackson's terrible.
Lamar Jackson, actually, I don't think he looked that bad. He was just looking to run first.
I
know his passing needs a lot of refinement, but we're going up against Oakland, Tags.
So no, I get that. So here's the reason that John Brown, I think, might be a decent Hail Mary play, because the Raiders have allowed 11 pass plays of 40 plus yards, which is the most in the NFL.
And he's their primary red zone threat. They're going to be in the red zone a lot.
I don't think he's their primary red zone threat. I don't think they're going to throw the ball in the red zone at all with Lamar Jackson.
Who is their red zone threat?
It's nobody, because they don't throw the ball in the red zone. They run it. And they're going to run it again and again. And the Raiders can't stop the run. So there's little reason for them to pass in this game. That's my concern about John Brown. I think he's going to have to make do with a long play. Like, he's probably going to get 3 or 4 targets in this game, and he's going to have a big play in order to live up to even close to wide receiver 3 value. Taylor Gabriel, I like a lot. It is worrying me about the whole Trubisky thing. If his arm's not okay, I don't know if Daniel is going to, if he takes the chances that Trubisky does down the field, because Trubisky's been throwing the ball deep more than almost any quarterback in the league. Gabriel, I know he only had 3 targets against the Lions last time, and he had no catches against them, but watching that game, he did have a deep target it was in the end zone, and literally had the ball in his hands, and the cornerback snuck his hand in there, wrenched it out at the last second. It could have been viewed as a very different performance. And keep in mind, that was without Darius Slay. So now that Slay's back for the game, you're going to see Allen Robinson take a dip in his performance. Anthony Miller still has a good matchup, but the Lions defense, even with Darius Slay, has allowed a 2.31 PPR points per target to wide receivers. That is the most in the NFL. Gabriel's going to match up with Nevin Lawson, a cornerback who runs roughly a 4.5 40-yard dash, and has allowed at least a 104.8 QB rating in his coverage each of the last 3 years. Inside of a dome, I think Gabriel's speed shows up and he could like have one of those big weeks.
But I don't think the Bears are going to do a ton, and they've got Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, Anthony Miller, Tariq Cohen. He's like the number 5. Gabriel's the number 5 option.
I don't think that's the case. Gabriel still has more targets than Burton on the season, and like Miller has been incorporated more, but Miller saw just 3 targets last week. So there's a lot of moving parts in this offense, but I think Miller and Gabriel are the 2 best wide receiver plays on that team this week in terms of like if you were to like say which 2 are you going to play in DFS, I wouldn't want to play Allen Robinson if I didn't have to.
By the way, John Brown leads the Ravens by quite a bit in the red zone in targets and within the 10-yard line. He's ahead of some stars like Alshon Jeffrey. So John Brown has been being used in the red zone, just not lately. We'll see what happens there. Let's go 3 more wide receivers, then we'll move on over to tight end, quarterback, and DST. And we'll need to move a little bit faster once we get to those positions. So here's 3 names for you. Michael Crabtree, same kind of thing. Lamar Jackson probably. Let's go with Demaryius Thomas face Tennessee. And then Danny Amendola, safe play against Indianapolis. Tags your first on these 3.
Ew. Can I choose none of the above?
You can substitute any name outside the top 50 ECR for one of these if you prefer.
Adam Humphries.
Adam Humphries, okay.
I would play Humphries over every single one of those guys you just named.
What about Devontae Parker? I've got him up there. I know a lot of people are going to want to punch me for saying that, but 11 targets in his last game, guys.
If there was a video of me right now, you would be like, you know my answer. Like Devontae Parker, I've moved on. I've attended my meetings. I'm done. I've divorced Devontae Parker until I don't know when, but I've divorced him.
You can't change me.
I'm done.
Maybe you should though. We'll see.
Come on, Tags. Everybody gets a 2nd or 10th chance. Come on.
Just a taste. That's what everybody says. And you get hooked in again.
This is my last hurrah on Devontae Parker. If he doesn't do it this week, I will give up, okay? But
well, yeah, given his upcoming schedule, you won't need another you won't want another opportunity with him, but yeah, agreed.
No, this is his last chance, but he's questionable for this game too, so.
Yeah, which means he's not playing. No, Devontae Parker. What about John Ross? He's been getting a bunch of targets. Now, obviously, if AJ Green plays, that's a no-go, but would you put him in that conversation?
Green might help him.
With Amendola, Demaryius Thomas, Michael Crabtree?
Yeah, I mean, I'd start him over Crabtree for sure. Demaryius, close, because Demaryius is probably going to get Malcolm Butler, and Malcolm Butler's been terrible because Adoree Jackson's been shadowing number 1 receivers last 2 weeks.
Adoree Jackson was awful last week though too, so maybe they switch back.
Right. Well, DeAndre Hopkins is going to get his no matter who's on him. That's just DeAndre Hopkins. But Thomas, like to see him like nothing last week, that's a little worrisome. But John Ross, by the way, he's seen 13 targets the last 2 weeks, so he's involved. But if AJ Green plays, he might be out there as a decoy. He would at least pull Denzel Ward away from John Ross. So I think it actually might help John Ross if AJ Green plays.
Which is a good point. Yeah, I think he would be getting some snaps, and man, this Cincinnati team is just falling apart before our eyes. I can't believe they still have a chance at the playoffs. They seem horrible.
Yeah, real quick, guys. Amendola, it would be the only one I would roughly consider there, and I'm with Tags on Humphries. I'd go Willie Snead over those guys.
Willie Snead's a great call. Yeah, yep.
And I'd probably go D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, not an ideal matchup, but he's been getting some work lately. All right, guys, at tight end, it's going to be pretty simple because we really don't have that many guys to choose between. You've got the obvious top 7, which I think still includes Jack Doyle, David Njoku, Trey Burton, even though they haven't been playing great football, but a couple names here that are on the fringe. Why don't you pick out 2 of them, Tags, and 2 of them, Doug, and then we'll just move on pretty quickly. Austin Hooper at New Orleans.
No.
Eric Ebron face Miami.
Okay.
I mean, they're all disgusting, but you got to pick 2 still.
No, Hooper's like a no-go. Like, don't play Hooper.
I think he's a no-go. I think Ebron's a no-go. Vance McDonald at Denver. I've got him as a lock in the top 10.
Yeah, he should be.
He's my number 8 guy.
Yeah, I'd play Vance McDonald over Hooper for sure. As for Ebron, that's tough.
You like 1 target per game?
No, I don't like 3 targets per game, but I also don't like the rest of the tight ends. So the thing is, here's my deal. I'm going to explain this real quick, Bobby, because Mark Ingram last week, some people gave me so much crap for having him at like number 13 in my running back rankings last week. They're like, against Philadelphia, what are you, nuts? I'm like, okay, so stop. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to finish as the number 13 running back. What happens is you have to look at the other options behind him and say, could I confidently start those guys over Mark Ingram, who plays for an offense that's putting up 50 points a game? No, I couldn't. And so, like, when you look at Eric Ebron compared to other crappy tight ends like Kyle Rudolph and Jeff Hireman. Can I confidently say that those guys are going to outproduce him? No.
Oh, I was going to say, but that's the number 14 and 15 tight end. That is getting up there. That's borderline startable. This is awful.
Yeah, but the one I do want to say that's a sit 100% is Austin Hooper. You don't play him this week.
Yeah, Hooper's a sit. I think Jared Cook is a sit against Baltimore. Evan Ingram's a sit against Philly, who's great against tight ends. So I've got Jordan Reed and Vance McDonald in there. And I'm looking for a 12th. I think Chris Herndon right now might be in my top 12 against New England. Tags, I know you like him a little bit. Does he make your top 12?
Herndon's interesting for sure. He's seen 19 targets over the last 5 weeks. So, that's not like a crazy amount, but his efficiency has been awesome. On those 19 targets, he's totaled 14 receptions for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns. And now it's like, so the Patriots face an average of 8.2 targets per game to tight ends. They've allowed 62 yards per game and 7 touchdowns in the process. 7 of 10 tight ends have finished as top 15 options against them. So I think he does come with a relatively safe floor. Yes, he's going to be in my top 15 for sure. I don't know if he makes top 12, but he's creeping up there. I'd rather play him than Austin Hooper.
Yeah, I've got Nick Vannett in the conversation. And depending on what happens with O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, I would probably put number 5 or number 6. And if Howard is healthy, obviously you've got to start Howard. So Doug, let's go to you here. Why don't you pick out 2 or 3 names that you've heard that you would put within your top 12?
Yeah, to me, Vance McDonald's an easy inside the top 10. I've been very pleased with the way he's been used there in Pittsburgh lately. But yeah, Hooper is a sit for me. Ebron's a sit for me. Reed makes sense, especially with McCoy. And then, I'm sorry I'm in total agreement here, but
nothing wrong with that. In fact, I like it.
I like Herndon against the Patriots as well. You're looking at, for the season, Patriots have given up 7 touchdowns to the tight end position, tied for second in the league. Over the last 5 weeks, I believe they've given up 22 receptions, 292 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And we're not talking about the elite of elite tight ends, I believe. That's the last 5 weeks. John Smith, Jimmy Graham, Charles Clay, Trey Burton, Travis Kelce. And Kelce was actually on the lower end of production for those guys. I'm with Tags on that. I'm not sure about top 12, but top 15, I'll easily put him in the top 15.
We've been saying Herndon is a touchdown or bust guy, but in those last 5 weeks he played, he's in the top 8 in receiving yards too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is just like the tight end position's a crapshoot, man. Like legitimately, that's why Ebron continues to be like a top 12 tight end in my rankings. Not because like I want to play a guy that sees 3 targets a game, but because he's got upside that the other guys don't. And by the way, Rob Gronkowski, I know that people are going to ask, should they play him? Yes, play Rob Gronkowski.
Please stop asking that. You have to play him if he's healthy.
That's the thing. So Jamal Adams has been awesome, but the competition has been relatively weak against the Jets. But there's been 40 times this year, just 40 games this year, where a tight end has totaled 75 or more yards. Even though Gronk has missed like basically half the games, he has totaled 3 of those 40 games. Like, it just goes to show you like how rare the tight end position is, like in terms of finding someone that you could just stick in your lineup every week. So,
and like, who are you going to bench him for? Are you going to bench him and pick up Antonio Gates? It is a disaster out there.
People will bench him for Eric Ebron, I promise you.
Yuck. They should be banned from fantasy football.
I'll say this, guys, real quick about Herndon. I think this is somebody we're going to be talking about next year at this time, where he's almost a shoe-in for top 6 tight end. Maybe next year's a bit early, but I liked him coming out of the draft. I couldn't understand when the Jets were trying to promote Jordan Leggett and Eric Tomlinson on the same level as him. I think he's going to be at worst a low-end tight end 1 next year.
I like it. All right, quarterback position. We've got the top 6, which is set in stone. At least I think most people would agree with Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers. After that, though, it's really close between number 7 and all the way down to number 16, okay? In our ECR rankings, all those guys are really close. So let's look at some tough decisions here. We'll go with 7, 8, 9 in ECR. Jameis Winston faced San Francisco. Carson Wentz against the Giants. Deshaun Watson against Tennessee. I've got Watson all the way down at 14. I've got Winston as my top guy here. Tags, which way are you going?
Yeah, it's Winston for me, for sure. We talked about it on the waiver wire show yesterday. Winston, if you were to, morph him and Fitzpatrick together, they would have more fantasy points than every quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes or Jared Goff. And granted, yes, they've been benched in between those games, and there's always been some concern, but knowing they're going back to Winston on this quarterback carousel, he's going to have a longer leash in this game. San Francisco's secondary has been hurt with injuries. They don't have much depth at cornerback, and the Bucs roll out one of the best 4 wide receiver sets in the game. Knowing that OJ Howard I don't think he's likely to play this week. I think we're going to see a lot of passing in this game to the wide receivers, and I just don't think that the 49ers have the talent to cover it. As for Wentz, it's a divisional game. The Giants are one of the teams that they've actually been relatively good. They haven't allowed much of a ceiling to quarterbacks this year. Watson not throwing the ball much. Tennessee has been a defense that's held a lot of their opponents under 20 points. And then even going to the next one, Phillip Rivers against Arizona, Arizona's been awesome.
Very good. Yeah, they don't run many plays either, so I don't think Rivers is going to throw 40 passes this week.
I think it's a Melvin Gordon week, but Arizona, they've only allowed 12 passing touchdowns all season long.
Yep.
Let me throw a real basic stat in here for you guys. 49ers, 2 interceptions all year. So either Winston...
So Winston's going to double that, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, guys, I've got Wentz, Watson, and Rivers all outside my top 12. They're in the top 10 in ECR, but again, it's very close. Wentz, man, that was disgusting against the Saints that game. I don't know if the Saints defense is getting that much better, because we know they had a lot of talent coming into the season, or something's going on with Wentz. I don't know, but it was ugly, guys. We've got Tom Brady at ECR number 11. Mitch Trubisky's right behind him against Detroit, and then Big Ben at Denver. I don't know why Big Ben is outside the top 12 ECR, because he's an automatic start for me.
On the road, I don't think he has to be automatic, but I'd play Ben over Tom Brady.
He's been good this year, man. He's been really good this year.
He didn't look so good against the Jags in the first 3 quarters of that game.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But, I'm talking in terms of fantasy performance, and he threw 47 passes.
Yeah, that was a lot.
That translates against any defense, and Denver's significantly worse against the pass than Jacksonville.
Yeah, Doug, would you start Lamar Jackson over Tom Brady this week?
Isn't that so funny? But I would.
I probably would, yo.
I would start Baker over him.
Over Tom Brady?
Yeah. Tom Brady, so check this out. I've already written up this game. Brady has played 5 games in New York over the last 5 years, and in those games, he has not thrown for more than 286 yards. He has not thrown more than 2 touchdowns. And in fact, in 3 of the games, he threw 1 or less touchdowns. He has been so this is another fun stat, Bobby. You're going to love this one. There have been 86 different occasions where a quarterback has posted at least 21.9 fantasy points this year. Okay. 86. Tom Brady, one of them.
Oh man. He's been a QB1 4 out of 10 weeks. That's less than Andy Dalton.
Yeah. And the Jets they're not a great defense, but they've actually been relatively solid. Outside of that Bills game, they've held quarterbacks to just 7.1 yards per attempt, 62% completion rate. So it's not a great matchup for Brady. On the road, I think they run the ball. I think Sony Michel has a great game. So I would probably start Lamar Jackson over Tom Brady.
Probably Sony Michel and James White have a great game.
I don't think James White needs to.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I did a write-up called The Dirty Dozen, where it's 12 quarterback matchups I want to avoid moving forward. For what it's worth, Morris Claiborne actually ended up at number 9, and I did rank these by passer rating against. This is last week, obviously. Of course, since they're on the bye, then it didn't change any. So 67.9 passer rating against for Morris Claiborne. So you'd have to think that he's going to see significant time on Josh Gordon.
So, Tags, it sounds like you're starting Big Ben and Trubisky ahead of Tom Brady, but if you have to choose between those two, who are you taking, Mitch or Big Ben?
Oh, man, it would have been Trubisky, hands down, had I known he'd been healthy, but now I'm really worried because he missed practice the last 2 days. This is something that I'm going to remain fluid with and pay close attention to because it's his throwing shoulder. That's not good.
You don't need to take a chance at quarterback. He's a great play if he's healthy, but why not just go pick up Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I would rather play Baker, I think, than both those quarterbacks right now. Mitch was going to be he was going to be a top 8 play for me this week, but this shoulder thing has me a little worried, a little spooked. But Baker, I think, is a solid play.
And then there's Russell Wilson against Carolina as well. Doug, where would you put him?
Borderline top 10, I suppose. At what point do we ignore the lack of volume and just say this is a 2 or 3 touchdown guy, regardless?
I can't ever do that because it just, historically in NFL history, this has never been sustainable. Is everything changing? Do we have to adjust our entire process?
Yeah, I think the record books are going to change real soon. Like it's ridiculous. Like, someone posted the other week, I can't remember, I think it was Pro Football Reference, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember. They posted something on Twitter. Basically, they combined all of the quarterbacks from the week of performances. I think this was like 2 weeks ago. They combined all of them from that week. They were essentially better than Drew Brees' numbers like 2 years ago, which is like, that's nuts. Like, that is absolutely stupid. Like, that shouldn't happen. They've become such a soft league in terms of like passing, and that's why guys like Lamar Jackson, we talk about, he's going to need to throw for some yardage and some touchdowns because rushing yardage doesn't carry quarterbacks the way it used to. You need to get over 20 fantasy points to get into that top 12. And Lamar Jackson, I mean, as good as he is running the ball, I mean, even if he runs for, 120 yards and a touchdown, that's 18 fantasy points. He still needs to start putting up yardage through the air. So, I mean, yeah, but Russell Wilson against Carolina, Carolina has allowed multiple touchdown passes in 7 of 10 games. So it's a matchup that actually suits him pretty well.
Still, if you're giving me 25 pass attempts, I am always betting the under on 2 touchdowns. I don't care who the quarterback is. I have to bet the under. History tells me I'd win money doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. In terms of that, like, that would be an 8% touchdown rate, 2 touchdowns on 25 pass attempts. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely betting the under. Definitely. Breaking news on the show, Adam Gase announces that Ryan Tannehill is once again the starter. This is fantastic.
I don't really care, Tags.
No, we don't care, but it actually does, just so you know, it does hurt Danny Amendola. And if Devontae Parker does play, this actually bumps him up in my rankings a little bit.
Interesting. Okay, if you're absolutely desperate, and let's just make this a very quick answer, who do you go with? Dak Prescott against Washington, Andy Dalton face Cleveland, Matthew Stafford face Chicago, Nick Mullins face Tampa, Eli Manning against Philadelphia.
Mullins or Eli, honestly. Those two are in a similar territory.
Yeah, I'm going Eli over Mullins.
You can't convince me to start Eli against anybody.
Yeah, it's a divisional game on the road. Maybe I'm going to go Mullins.
Mullins for me.
Oh, you guys are gross.
It's so sexy. Love it.
I don't know, man. I don't believe it. I don't believe in him at all. It is Tampa, though, so you don't really have to believe in anyone. Like, you throw out whoever. You put Blaine Gabbert at quarterback, I would start him.
Yeah, dude. George Kittle. Target George Kittle 20 times, and you'll post QB1 numbers, dude. Just do it.
I think you're right. All right. Defense, special teams here. We don't really have that much in the way of streamers at the top. At this point, you start Dallas every week, I think. New England's a good play against Sam Darnold in New England. I don't know if Darnold's actually playing. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, they're owned in almost every league. Tennessee against the Texans offensive line. But again, I think they're owned in most leagues. Buffalo against Jacksonville's a great play if you can get them. Otherwise, I like Indianapolis against Miami. Doug, who are a couple names you like? Do you like all those, or is there someone else that sneaks into your top 12?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the back end of, let's say, after 16. There's no sleeper defense that it's really jumping out at me.
Yeah, Buffalo would be probably one of the better plays, I think, just against Jacksonville. It's a high floor. Like, in terms of points per game allowed, they've been really good, and Jacksonville, hasn't been putting points on the board consistently. This game is in Buffalo. They're at home off of bye. So they've gotten healthier because they had some injuries leading up to it. So I think Buffalo's my favorite streamer.
I'm trusting the Redskins most of the rest of the way. Maybe not this week, but looking forward. I like what Tag said about Buffalo. Yeah, I don't see the Eagles being. I see them being ranked 9th on the ranks this week. I'm not on board with that.
I think Eli Manning probably turns it over once or twice. But yeah, I agree. I've got them number 13, so they're on the fringe for me.
It's the sacks, basically. If you play Philly, you're looking for the sacks, and they will get sacks on Eli.
All right, guys. Last question, and definitely the most important question on the show. So the Rams and Chiefs put up 105 points in one game. Does Atlanta top that, giving up over 105 by themselves against New Orleans this week?
No.
Oh, man, that is going to be awesome. I can't wait to see the Saints just blow them up.
I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Do you?
I do. It's a divisional game. Those two teams know each other extremely well. And they obviously played each other earlier in the year. I think it was week 3. And Matt Ryan lit them up.
The Saints are so good, man. I know everyone thinks it's the Rams and the Chiefs. The Saints are the Super Bowl favorite right now.
Drew Brees is the MVP for me right now. But
oh, yeah. He's having maybe the best season of all time.
Of his career. And the thing is like that Saints team wouldn't have made it through the first half of the season without him. Like, their defense is starting to play better now, but Drew Brees is like, he's so... Like, the Chiefs defense has been playing a lot better over the year than the Saints have. So it's like Brees has carried that team through, and now you're seeing the combination of both, where both sides of the ball are just dominating, and it's fun to watch, man.
I'm not talking about best season of his career. I'm talking about best NFL season ever. He's 39 years old. He's on pace to set the completion record by 5%. He's on pace to shred the best single-season quarterback rating. He's got a 25-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Guys, he's putting up phenomenal statistics.
I don't disagree. I try not to get into the best ever conversations, but I wish that, because it seems like we've recognized as either as an industry or as a general fandom that Tom Brady is the best ever and Aaron Rodgers is the best now, something along those lines. And people, Drew Brees, let's get him in the conversation. If we're gonna talk about best ever, best now, whatever, which again I'm not a fan of, Drew Brees has to be there, folks. I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah, that foursome of Brees, Rodgers, Manning, and Brady is something really special, and it looks like Mahomes may be joining the ranks before long, and guys, he might break that single-season record in his first full season. All right, guys, that's all for today's show. Doug, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Appreciate you having me. Let's do this again.
Sounds good. And thanks to the sponsor of today's show, FanDuel.com. Don't forget, they're giving away $1 million in one contest. It's $9 to enter for Thanksgiving, 3 games to choose between. Check out FanDuel and their app, which is awesome. And remember to submit an entry for that signed Dalvin Cook helmet at FantasyPros.com/contest. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.